steps to off-camera flash. So we're going to teach you guys how to take some incredible flash photography.
Yes, so holy cow, all of you guys are logging in. And while we're waiting for other people, go ahead and tell us where you are from. This is always kind of one of my favorite parts besides Q&A is just seeing, holy cow, seeing where everyone's from. All right, we have St. Louis and Texas.
Wisconsin. Daphne is from Wisconsin.
Michelle's from Florida. Love Florida.
Yeah, we've got Riverside, California, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Florida is where Craig is from.
Puerto Rico.
Oh my gosh, you guys are coming in from all over the country.
South
we have Vanessa
Africa.
coming in from South Africa,
Never
Virginia,
been there before.
Central Texas, Becky. We have Redwood City, California.
Welcome, guys.
Bozeman, Montana.
Ooh,
the Florida Keys. Ooh, that
beach.
sounds awesome right about now.
Beach.
Chattanooga, which is not too far from us.
Awesome.
So exciting. So keep commenting, keep telling us where you're from.
So fun.
This is awesome. We just want to say, one, welcome and tell you a little bit about us before we get started. So Jody and I have had the amazing privilege to coach thousands of photographers over our career to build our own six-figure photography brand. We've been on some amazing platforms like Creative Live. We did a huge 3-day event on there and had one of the biggest selling Creative Lives of all time and had 20,000 plus photographers on that one event alone.
That was so fun. We've been able to do a lot of traveling, and we've been so privileged to speak in Europe and Russia and around the world. And, you know, it's so fun when we get to do those events. But what's even more exciting to us is events like this where it just feels more intimate. You know, we are coming to you and you're probably in your whatever, your yoga pants or whatever, just relaxing. And we love, this is what we really enjoy
and
doing.
even though there's hundreds of you guys on, it does feel like it's just us and you because you guys are watching us. We're sitting here just talking to you. And it's really exciting for us. We get an opportunity to go live to people all over the world and to be able to teach some of the things that we love to teach the most and help you guys solve some of the problems that you want to get solved. So I know for Jody and I, when we first started shooting, one of the biggest unknowns was lighting because you're like, man, I want to be a photographer, but lighting is not perfect all the time. It's not beautiful. You don't get that soft, amazing light every single time you go out. Sometimes it's cloudy or sometimes there's really bad sun or sometimes it's just one of those days where the light just stinks. It just doesn't look good at all. And flashes, I know for Jody and I both, flashes and strobe felt intimidating and you have all these ratios and all that stuff, and Jody can speak to that as well.
I was just saying, how many of you can relate? I know shooting in natural light is beautiful, right? Like the imagery is beautiful, and a lot of us will like peg ourselves as natural light photographers. And oftentimes it's because there's a fear behind it of I can't shoot in anything where the light isn't good, or I'm leery of that. And so we want to help solve that problem today because we have been there where we're like, ooh, if it's not beautiful natural light and it's really dark and whatever, like we can be screwed. So that is what this webinar is all about. So you don't have those I'm going to be screwed moments or feelings.
And I know for me, when we first started this business, I literally was a touring musician, not making very much money. Jody and I first got married, and I was feeling that, one, that pressure to like get a good job, to be able to take care of my wife, but two, I wanted to do something that I loved. And how many of you can relate to that? You want to do something you love, something you're passionate about. And I love creativity and I love science, which are two things that music has and that photography has. So I came home one day and I was like, Jody, what do you think about becoming photographers? And she was like, I believe we could do that. But this was 10 years ago, so I was going, digital photography is this really cool thing, but there's all these techniques and things that you got to do, and all these photographers that I love that did these amazing stylized photos that they seem to have so much confidence in their work. I went, how am I going to be able to do that and practically do that on a wedding or a portrait shoot when we're out on location in real time? Because I spent a little time, I did a little bit of interning with a couple of amazing photographers, but they would spend an hour sometimes just setting up a flash photo. And I said, we've got to be,
practical.
Yes, it wasn't practical. I said, I'm going to feel less confidence if it's taking us a long time to do this. Can we do this in 30 or 40 seconds? So Jody and I spent, Jody can tell you that I'm crazy when it comes to research and learning and getting books from the library and watching every video I can get and getting DVD series and all this stuff to learn everything I could.
Lucky for you guys and for me.
Yeah, and over the years, we built this incredibly fast, efficient system that gave us the key here, complete confidence every time we walked out. We wanted to be able to go on any shoot at any time and know no matter what was happening with the lighting, whether we wanted to create something really cool or whether the lighting wasn't allowing us to capture what was really happening, we could be able to go through this simple process and know we were going to be able to get amazing photos each and every time.
Yeah, so it was, it enabled us to get the confidence we needed to go out and shoot. We had a very simple system that we're going to share with you that we followed. And then beyond that, then we can just be creative and get extra fun, but we get that foundation down that takes out the fear and the guesswork, and that's huge.
And that's what it's going to do for you. That's exactly what this webinar is going to do for you guys today. Just like Jody said, it's going to remove the guesswork, the complexity from flash photography for good, forever. It's going to be gone. And it's going to give you guys total confidence to be able to shoot the photos that you want to shoot. It's also going to help set you apart and help you to be creative, which is really exciting as well. It's exciting to feel creative. It's exciting to feel that way. And I know Sherry is commenting right now and she's saying, I'm scared to death of off-camera flash. We know the feeling, but today we promise you guys, after this webinar, you are going to feel that confidence.
So she's saying, bring it, bring it. All right, we'll bring it. So just a couple housekeeping things. This webinar is going to be about an hour in teaching time. You can ask questions. There's a comment form. If you want to go ahead and select the little comment bubble, you can turn it as a question. And what that does for us is it puts it in a certain category so we can see the questions in their own, so they don't get buried with all the comments that you guys are putting up.
And also, we're going to be doing some giveaways, so stick around. You have to be here to the end of the webinar if you want to get a chance. We're going to do one big one. We're going to give away an off-camera flash modifier. That's one of our favorite ones that we've ever used. And then everyone is actually going to get a giveaway as well. So those of you that are interested in business and building a better business and making more money with your photography,
You don't want to miss
The
it.
fact
that
is,
gonna be
nothing
for
grows
you.
your
So
business
A couple other quick
or
things.
sell.
If you happen to get disconnected, there's a button at the bottom that says reconnect. Just go ahead and click that button. If something goes haywire, hit that and it should help fix it and bring you back with us all. So
All right, so are you guys ready to learn the 3-step simple system to start taking incredible flash photos?
yeah, if you
With ease.
guys are ready, then this is it. So we're gonna hop over into our keynote here. We're gonna go through the teaching portion. So just give us a second to get into that, and we will get started. All right, so we just want to make sure that you guys can see this, which you should be able to see our keynote at this moment. So if you guys have any issues with that, just let us know in the comment box and we will do our best to fix it.
So if you see our mugs and our logo, you're seeing the right thing.
All right, so let's get rolling. The 3 simple steps to using off-camera flash. Now, when you decide to add off-camera flash to your lighting toolkit, it really does open up a whole new world of really amazing artistic possibilities.
And and as we mentioned already, it really can help you stand out with your unique images. And what we're going to share with you is really going to give you confidence in any lighting situation. And it'll give you control over your creativity like never before, which is super exciting.
And I know we've said that a lot, but I really just want to reiterate that feeling confident when you go out on a photo shoot, knowing you can handle any lighting situation, is one of the most important key things for me, and I know for Jody as well. And this off-camera lighting system is going to do exactly that for you. So before we get rolling, we do want to show you guys some before and afters and really what some of this off-camera lighting can do and what you're going to be able to do literally after watching this webinar. So first of all, being able to capture the sunset. You ever have that sun going down and the sun's no longer hitting your client, but it's hitting the sky, and you want to be able to capture that beautiful detail? Well, using off-camera flash is going to allow you to be able to do that.
We've busted this out, our strobes and whatnot, even in engagement sessions. And this isn't even wedding specific, what we're sharing with you. It's any portrait session, anything you want to shoot that you want to enhance with some cool lighting, like this shot here. If we didn't have those speed lights lighting up the background that you see, then it would just be a big dark hole. But look at how cool our subjects look and the background. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I know Jennifer is saying, hey, in your PDF, it was super informative about keeping the balance between the background and the subject. So for all of you guys that registered for this, if you didn't get it, we shot you an email and we sent you our quick start guide to off-camera flash PDF, which is a really great refresher from this webinar, and it also gives you some really great key insights that we're not even going to be talking about on this webinar. So if you didn't get that, check your spam. It may be in there, but everybody got that as soon as they signed up. Some of the other really cool stuff that you can do with off-camera flash is, one, this is the before picture, right?
Just to clarify.
Yeah, it's turning, you can take cool backgrounds that you may really like, but maybe the ambient light isn't so amazing, it doesn't look that great, and then you can turn it into a stunning portrait with literally one flash in the right position, the right settings, the right everything, and you can do really cool stuff like this.
And here's a shoot that was done in Colorado, and you can see you're at a really cool outdoor location.
Yeah.
And so you want to set your subject up in a way that shows the background that you're really excited about, but you need light because maybe the light on them isn't as awesome as you want it to be.
Yeah, sometimes the direction you want to shoot in doesn't have the best light, but you go, that background is there. And I remember when I was actually out shooting this image, there was one spot where like the trees opened up and you could see all these amazing mountains in the background. So we had to get out the off-camera flash though to make you able to see it, and it was literally high noon. But this is the image that I was able to capture, the real beauty of that background in the middle of the day, direct sun, but painting that beautiful light onto the subject. And by the way, this is the same angle closer up of the natural light. Oh my gosh. Like it didn't look very amazing, but when you added flash, the right angle, the right composition, all of a sudden we get this beautiful flattering light on our subject. Very cool.
Another fun thing is that it makes guys feel really awesome. You know, you bust this out at a portrait session with a dad or an engagement session or the groom, and all of a sudden you validated yourself with them because they're like, hey, I actually look pretty cool. It's another advantage.
I know for me too, as Jody and I, our background being in wedding photography, the groom, I always had a hesitation. So I would start by going, hey, let me put this cool flash up. It's going to make you look like kind of rock star or James Dean, or I would just kind of like whatever he was into, say something. I'd be like, I'm going to set this up and just look like you want to hurt me in this photo. And then they would always be like, oh, no problem, you know. And then I would shoot a really cool portrait like this, and then they would trust me, they would loosen up, and they'd allow me to take those more intimate portraits later on of them being more relaxed and more emotional. What I was going to say was really cool too is you can even take group shots where this is natural light, and the natural light was great on this day. It looked fantastic, as you can see, but you can change the entire mood of the whole look of the photograph or the next set of series of images by adding off-camera flash and change it into something that looks like this.
Yep, and we love it. And then, you know, even just doing another shot of the guys, we're like, oh, I look like I'm on a band, you know, cover of a DVD, you know, like they love it. They eat it up.
Yeah, make them look really, really cool. And this is, you know, one of their favorite photos from the groomsman and his brothers. So for those of you photographers out there that are portrait photographers and want to shoot that more creative, stylized portraiture, or maybe you want to scratch that creative itch, this image is exactly the kind of stuff you can do with off-camera flash. This is not just for wedding photography. Once you start knowing the possibilities and have a great system, the steps to the system, and you have those kind of nailed, the things you're able to do with flash are basically endless. You can basically create anything that you want to create the more that you do it.
Even like this shot here, you know, they're running and moving around, and no, the light wasn't awesome around there. We actually had the light set up in one spot, and they ran by and made passes at it. So you can do a lot of different things, you know, when you have essentially a portable window that you're carrying.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Some awesome light.
You can also make the bride look stunning, even in direct sun. This shot, believe it or not, was in the middle of the day. The sun had just came out, and it was blasting on the side of her face, but we added our off-camera flash and overpowered it, and we're able to create this stunning image of the bride. And really, images like this where, you know, a lot of times when you have that backlight coming in and it's got that beautiful light lighting up the trees, we'll get this beautiful flare or maybe a beautiful look on the shot, but we'll lose all that detail in the sky. What's amazing about using off-camera flash is we can do a backlit photo like this and see all the detail, all the beauty of everything that's coming through, and then paint that light on the front, and it turns it into sort of this ethereal or dreamlike looking photograph. This is done with just one off-camera flash. So if you guys, hopefully this is getting you really excited for what you guys can do with off-camera flash, getting your creative juices flowing. So now let's get into the 3 steps that we go through and that you need to know in order to do this yourself.
Yeah, so here's a couple keys we want to share before we get into the system. So the very first key is you need to have the right kind of light. Very important.
And what do we mean by that? The right kind of light is really what's the right light for you. The right light that expresses your style of shooting and how you want to photograph the type of portraits or events or weddings or whatever it is that you shoot. I know for Jody and I specifically, now this isn't, we're not putting this on the screen and saying, hey, go buy this flash setup. We're showing you guys the options, what's out there. This is kind of a down the middle flash option. It's in between a speed light, which is a lower power off-camera flash option, and a really huge studio strobe that has a ton of power. This one's called the Ranger Quadra by Elinchrom, and Jody and I for many years took this thing only weighs 6 pounds total, and that little battery pack just weighs 3.5, 4 pounds. And we took this with us on location. It's really designed to go outside and to shoot outside, and you can put all kinds of lighting modifiers onto that little flash. And what's great about this is it has a decent amount of power, about 400 watt seconds. So a lot of the shots that you saw were done using this strobe. But this for us was the right light for us. It gave us enough versatility, but it also was portable and easy to get around. And we did a lot of traveling with this as well, and it was very versatile for us.
Now, don't think that you have to spend $1,400 in order to get the kind of light that you're looking for. There are way more inexpensive options out there, like the Einstein is a great one. The biggest thing that you want to look for is if you are wanting to overpower the sun and get some really dramatic looking skies, you want about 500 watt seconds. You can go, like this one is 400, which works in pretty much most situations, but a good rule of thumb is about 500 watt seconds. And if you get that in a light, which the Einstein, like I mentioned, is great, then what's the price point on that?
That one's about $500 versus $1,400.
Yeah, so a little bit more cost effective.
Exactly.
You can still get the same result.
And there's even less expensive ones than that. There's a great company here in Nashville where we're out of called Alien Bees, and they have they make the Einstein, but they also make $200 lights. And if you go on Adorama, you can buy their in-house brand for $150 that has this kind of power. So there's a lot of options out there. You just got to make sure it fits your budget, and it also is going to produce the results. That's the key. Produces the results that you're looking for. Next up, this is a modifier. So we rarely just use the flash that the strobe has. We typically will modify that light by putting it through something like a softbox. Now, there's softboxes and there are umbrellas, and we'll talk about the difference between the two in a second. But what I want to point out here is that this is a softbox that Jody and I took with us for, 6 or 7 years maybe straight, the same one, photographing weddings. What we loved was it's 24 by 32 inches. It's by Westcott. It's their Pro Series. It's $169, so it's not that expensive, very durable. But what's great about this is it produces very high quality light. The light doesn't have to be super close, but when it comes out, it produces this incredibly beautiful light. So remember this, the bigger the light source is, the softer and prettier the light's going to be, the smaller the light modifier, the more harsh it's going to be, but obviously the easier to move around and to get around with however you choose to shoot.
A funny story is when we first started shooting, we're like, oh, well, we want the light to be amazing. And so we brought out this really big softbox, and we're like, this is just a bit too big to put in and out of our car.
And it wouldn't fit through the doors.
Yeah, it was a bit overkill. So this is the happy medium, especially shooting weddings and being portable and moving around guests.
And we did want to mention the difference if you're thinking about, to a traditional softbox or Octabank versus, say, an umbrella. Remember, an Octabank or a softbox like this is going to shoot more directional light. It's going to be more controllable. Versus an umbrella is going to shoot light everywhere. So it's going to be great for group portraits, and if you're shooting a lot of bigger families and stuff like that. That's typically when we would use something like that. So a softbox like this, you can see what it can do. So now this is a very old photo. This is back in the day.
It's the first year or two.
We used to have these giant power packs on our flashes and these way bigger lights. Now they're really tiny.
Essentially like a car battery that you're carrying
around.
But
this is a great before and after, which is why we can't seem to pull it out of the portfolio. But you can see the 24 by 32 softbox is up there. When we expose with the face, we get this really bright sky. But then when we add that flash and look at the beautiful light just painted onto our subject. And of course, this is a very dramatic photo. So it gets that really dark and moody sky. So remember, the larger the light is, it's going to give you that better overall light quality and coverage of your subject. But you don't have to use a 24 by 32. You can use one quite a bit smaller and still get some really amazing results. The key is quality of light. How even does the light come out of the front of the softbox? And that's why we recommend the few that we recommend, because we know they produce beautiful, stunning light. So sometimes you're shooting on location. I know Jody and I were shooting this wedding in
Michigan?
Ohio, I think it was, wasn't it? Ohio in the middle of winter. And we were walking through this tunnel from one location to the next, and we went, man, the light coming through the tunnel looks really cool. But when we put the guys' faces there, they look like this. It wasn't very awesome. So we thought, man, if we have our 24 by 32 softbox, we put it at just the right angle. This is one of those lighting caveats. How do you light all their faces with one small light? But this is what we're able to accomplish with the right modifier, the right equipment, the right gear. perfect for us on that location and create something stunning that they're really going to treasure for a long time, especially the groomsmen.
For sure.
Same thing here, like bigger light modifiers give you more softness and beauty, and they also allow you to really do things that other smaller softboxes aren't going to allow you to do, or smaller light sources. So in this particular setup, we're going to show you, this is the before shot. We had some blaring backlit sun. We were out in the desert in Vegas shooting. So what we did is we toned down the ambient light to get some detail in the background that we wanted.
And what Zach means by that is we expose for the background.
Yeah.
So now our ambient light looks pretty darker.
Exactly. And we're going to show you the entire system coming up, so don't worry. I know some of you guys are starting. We're just talking about
We'll get there.
what can certain modifiers do for you. So once we added a big modifier, and this one we used a big octabank, we're able to capture this. So there's that sun coming in from camera left there, and you can see the beautiful light coming in from camera right from our off-camera flash, blending it with the background in the sky, and we get this just stunning, beautiful image of this subject.
I'm reading the comments, and Eric, he says, "Whoa!"
Thanks. We appreciate
cool
it. And
Nick
Nick says, fantastic shot. And then Paul says, gorgeous girl and setting. Yes, she's absolutely gorgeous. It's nice to have great subjects. So now that's with a big light source. So what can you do with some smaller light sources? So this is one that we recommend all the time. This is called the Rapid Box. And by the way, one lucky winner attending the webinar today is going to win this lighting modifier.
Oh, yeah.
But this is from a company called Westcott, and this is called the Rapid Box. This is made specifically for a speed light. So your speed light mounts to the little bracket there. It comes with all these pieces, and then you just throw it on a light stand, and you're ready to rock and roll. But it's a Rapid Box because it pops open like an umbrella, and it acts kind of like a beauty dish. And a beauty dish is so great because the light comes out of the front very evenly and creates this sort of dead spot in the center of the flash. So the light tends to wrap around your subject's face. And we absolutely love this lighting modifier.
So the thing to keep about this modifier is, like Zach mentioned, like this is for a speed light. So you can't take this out with your speed light in high noon and overpower the sun. The speed light does not have enough wattage to go ahead and do that. So this is great in lower light situations. So whether it be like dusk or sunrise, or in the next images like we're going to show you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by the way, I know we just mentioned like it's hard to shoot in bright sun with this. Some of you may be thinking, well, what about high-speed sync? Well, we'll talk about that coming up, and we talk about that extensively later on. So keep that in mind. We're going to talk about high-speed sync, the limitations of it, and what you can use it for, so don't worry about that. So here's a before image. We were photographing this wedding at dusk, and of course everything was running behind schedule as the first dances were starting, and the video guy was shooting his light in from the side.
Awesome.
They were supposed to have their dances as the sun was setting, but instead it turned out to be like really, really dark. So that just happens. Sometimes this happens, and I was anticipating it, so we already had our off-camera flashes set up. So here's what we did. We had one flash on the front, the Rapid Box, and we just had two bare bulb speed lights in the background
For fun.
just for a little added flair. So you wouldn't have to do that on your own, but keep in mind this is the kind of stuff that's going to become easy for you once you get into this. And when the bride and groom are doing their first dance, we were able to capture this, and this is how it turned out. Just absolutely stunning.
Jesse's saying, "Love the other lights in the background."
Yeah, so for some of the shots I left the lights in, for some of them I kept them out, but I really like the effect of keeping them in the shot. Here's another situation too where maybe the ambient light isn't that bad, and Jody and I are photographing this wedding at this amazing location, and all this really pretty nice light was coming in from the side, but we wanted to shoot at this particular angle that you're seeing here. And the problem was, if we put our subjects into one of those little corridors down there, we were going to have kind of flat light on them because it was all going to be coming from the same angle as the camera. And we wanted the light coming from a different angle to be more flattering on our subject. So down the hallway on the left, we added our little Rapid Box. We put one speed light in the background for added effect, and we were able to capture this shot. The same location, same lighting, but using our flashes to get the look that we wanted. So you can go from those big light sources that are going to give you that huge, beautiful, overpowering the sun look, or in those darker lit situations, maybe a smaller flash, less power, speed lights, and you can create these kind of beautiful, stunning images with your photography.
Yeah, so it's all about the kind of light, what you want to do, and what size light and modifier. So the next key is the right ratios.
Dun, dun, dun. So now you might be thinking, all right, the next piece of the puzzle is, like Jody said, deciding what ratio of light to use. And you may be going, ratio? That sounds complicated. That doesn't sound
going to be simple.
The 3 simple steps. What happened to the 3 simple steps? Well, don't worry. What all you have to think about with ratios, and we can get hyper technical about this, and we have gotten hyper technical, and people
Zach loves to get hyper technical.
I'm such a nerd, but people roll their eyes at us, and they just want, like, explain it to me in the most simple way possible, because when you're on location shooting, you don't want to be thinking about complex things. You want to be thinking about things that are easy to produce over and over and over again.
So essentially, when we are saying light ratios, all we're talking about is how much light is coming from your flash versus the light that's already existing, the ambient light that's already out there. That's really all we're talking about, the balance between those two lights.
And once you know what that is and how to get that and what it's going to look like for you, all predetermined beforehand, then you can define the style of shooting that you want to be able to produce and get the exact type of images that you want every single time. So this first one, these are just some examples. We'll show you how to do this coming up. But this is a good example. You can have lots of ambient light in the shot, and then just flash just be a little bit brighter than that ambient light. And that's technically called 3-to-1 lighting, where the flash is about twice as bright as the light that's in the background. But what this does is it allows your shots to feel a little more organic, for the background to have nice detail and a lot of brightness to it, not to have too heavy of shadows, and for it to look a little more organic. And of course, you can go the reverse of this and have your ambient light dominate and just fill in a little bit with the shadows. And we're going to show you guys how to do all of that. But this is what's called 3-to-1 lighting, or the flash is just a little bit brighter than the light in the background.
So this gives it a more natural feel. And so look at the background here before we show you the next image. So, you see detail in the trees and whatnot. So now we're going to start to get a little bit more dramatic. So look here, look at those tree lines. Now it's starting to fall more into the shadows, and the shot overall is a bit more moody and dramatic because our subject is brighter than the background.
Yeah, this shot would be called 5-to-1 lighting, which really just means that the flash is now 3 times more powerful. Instead of twice as bright, it's now 3 times as bright as the existing light in the shot. It creates deeper shadows, it creates that moodier, more dramatic looking sky, and it's just a different style. Some people love this, some people don't love this as much. I tend to go for dramatic and moody. That's kind of my thing. So you'll see a lot of my images tend to have that. But if you like that bright and airy look, you can do that as well with off-camera flash. And then you can take it to the extreme, like in this photograph here. This is what's technically called 9-to-1 lighting, but really what that means is the flash is 4 times brighter than the existing light. And you notice the detail on the tree line, gone. You see the sky, but it's like underexposed, and you can see all the detail, and even some of the sky is dark. We've added an extra little flash in the background to mimic the sunset, so we get that really cool, moody, dramatic, ethereal kind of looking shot. And the point of showing you all these photos is so that you can determine what style you like to shoot in.
Yep.
And then all you have to do is go, what ratio do I like? And then we're going to show you exactly in the next step how to get that ratio every single time, so you can get the look, the style, the feel, using the right modifier, the right ratio for your images every single time.
All right.
And that brings us to key number 3.
We're getting close, folks.
So here we go. Key number 3 is the right system. So how do we follow that system? So before we get into the step-by-step instructions, which are going to come right at the end, first we're going to show you this. We're going to show you how to create images like this when you know that the system you're using by which to create them, everything is falling into place. So what are a couple of the key things that you need to have ahead of time before you follow the system? Number 1 is you need to have great quality of light. Now, we discussed the right type of light that you want to use, but the light not only has to be at the right quality. And what do we mean by that? We mean that the light is coming out very soft and very evenly. So that will happen with a really good modifier like the ones we talked about earlier.
And just to reiterate, that is why we use a lighting modifier, because if we shoot light directly from our strobe, it's essentially a very small light source, and that does not give great quality of light. It's very contrasty. So when we put a modifier on our light, it makes the light source bigger, and that is what makes the light beautiful, and you can almost put anyone in that light and they just look gorgeous because it's soft and buttery.
Yep.
People will look at our images and they'll say, you guys like Photoshop, their skin and all that stuff. And it's like, no, it's the light. It's that beautiful painted on light. So you get great quality the bigger your light source is, which is why we love using modifiers.
So we need that quality. Number 2 is we need the right height of the light. So this is very important. So what height should your light be at? We're going to get into that coming up. But it's very important for the light to be at the right height because that's going to create the right shadows on the face, the right sparkle in your client's eye, and the list goes on. And then the last one is the direction of the light. The direction of the light is going to determine whether or not you flatter your subject. And of course, that's very important. So let's take a look at these 3 pieces of the puzzle all coming together in the before images of that image you saw just a minute ago.
What you're about to see, this is the before.
So here's the first one where we have good soft quality light, and this is actually coming from a window, which a softbox is just like window light.
Huge window.
It's beautiful quality light. It's about a 4 by 6 foot window with indirect light coming through it. It's beautiful and soft, and you can see the pattern of where the light specifically is falling. And in this image, as the bride is actually going outside for us to do some flash photos, she's walking down the stairs, and the center of that light source, you notice you can see the top where the shadows have fallen off and the bottom where it's kind of shadowy. The center of that light source is hitting her in about the kneecap area. And it does not look pretty, right? This is terrifying.
Her
this is not
face
good
dark.
at all. Yep, it's not flattering her body. It's not flattering anything. But then as she takes the next step down, now the light is kind of hitting her in the abdomen kind of area right there. And it's getting a little closer. It looks better than the last shot, but it's still not perfect. But once she steps down 2 more steps into the right position, all of a sudden everything comes together. We have beautiful quality light. It's nice and soft. It's in the right direction, so the light is moved off to camera left just behind the edge of her face, which creates those shadows on the near side of her face, the side that we see, and it slims her down, it slims her body down, it slims her face down. And then the last thing that we have, of course, is the height is in the right place where the center of the light source is a bit above the center of the eyes, and we get those beautiful shadows falling down on her face.
Have you ever been around a campfire and held a flashlight, at your chin? That is not the most flattering.
Not going to look so great on a bride, right?
No. So that's why we always want that light source a little bit above the eyes to give that great catch light and to flatter them.
So when we start using off-camera flash and we have 2 different light sources, we've got this flash, we've got the ambient light, we're shooting on location. What is the secret to getting these ratios and to using the system and making everything to come together? So what is the secret sauce? What makes this work for us?
We have this cool tool that we want to share with you that takes out the guesswork.
And everybody's seen one of these, but not a lot of photographers like to use them these days.
Don't run and hide.
But these things are amazing. And yes, you can do everything we're going to talk about without a light meter, but this is going to change your life when you use this.
Okay, so you may be looking at this and you see a lot of numbers and you may be twitching right now, but I promise you, we're going to break this down really briefly, quickly, and it's not going to be as intimidating.
Show you just how simple it actually is. So number 1 is any meter that we use, we just have to set the meter to the right metering mode. And all that means is the meter is wondering, what are you trying to meter? Flash? Are you trying to meter ambient light? What are you trying to meter? And we're, of course, wanting to meter flash. So we set it to flash mode. That's all that is.
So this number that you see here, this is the shutter speed. So when your camera says 1/125th of a second, then it's going to represent here as 125.
Yeah, simple as that. So that's the shutter speed, just like on your camera. Next is the f-stop. Now the meter is going to give you this reading specifically. So this reading doesn't come up until the flash hits the white dome at the top there. And then the next one is ISO. So you're just going to simply set the ISO, and we're going to show you exactly how to set all of this stuff coming up in the system, so don't worry. But this last one, this is the coolest one.
This is what you want.
This is the secret sauce right here. This is called the flash percentage. Wait a second. Percentage sounds like ratio to me.
Percentage of
it
flash?
sounds like percentage of flash, and that's exactly what it is. So the Sekonic L478D and DR and the older Sekonic L358, which is the one we still use today. This is the newer one, which you can still find, by the way, used on Amazon. Those all have this percentage reading. Now, not every meter has this, but many of them do. What this basically means is this. When the flash comes out and hits the dome, the meter, even though it says it's reading flash only, it quickly reads the ambient light, and then it quickly reads the flash, and it tells you the difference or the percentage or the ratio between the two. It does all the heavy lifting for you. So as an example, if it said 40%, what it would mean is there's 40% flash in the shot and 60% ambient in the shot. Or you're doing fill light. The ambient light at whatever settings the meter then says, you would be, the flash would be one stop darker than the ambient light. And we'll get into the details of this coming up, don't worry.
Essentially, if you know what percentage you're going for, so if you want more dramatic and moody shots, you know, you're going to be looking for a higher percentage. So instead of just doing all this guesswork, you're just going to look at the meter, see what the percentage says, and then you're going to power up and down your flash accordingly.
Yeah, it's really that simple. So here we go. Check this out.
Let's break this down.
Let's break this down and get into the nitty gritty. So here is the system to get this done.
What?
Okay, key number one is we want to simply pick the lighting pattern. Now, there's a lot of lighting patterns out there. We don't have time to go into all the details, but lighting patterns are what's going to give your client, it's going to either flatter them or not flatter them, putting basically the light in the right position for your client.
So think of the bride image that we just had of her going down the steps. You know, the left side was being hit with the light, and then the right side fell into the shadows, which slimmed her down. So picking the right lighting pattern is all about knowing how you want to compliment your client.
Absolutely. So next we set up our strobe. And what do we mean by that? We've got our flash on our camera or on our, say our light stand, and we've got it all set, ready to go. We've got it powered on. We've got our light modifier on there. And now we just want to raise it up into the right height. So when we set up our strobe, we do a couple of things. One, you can generically just go about 4 to 6 feet away. 4 to 6 feet away is going to give you enough closeness with the off-camera flash that's going to be nice and soft and beautiful, but not too close to where the light is going to get really dark and heavy on the opposite side. So 4 to 6 feet, we put it away. We pick that lighting pattern, we push the flash up, and remember, this is the simplest way to get the light in the right height, is wherever the center of the light source is, make sure that's simply above, not a ton, but slightly above the center of the eyes. If you do that, your flash will hit your subject and the pattern on their face will have the shadows falling in the exact right place every single time. It's really that simple.
It'll be gorgeous.
Next thing up is you want to, now we're not worrying about the camera yet, right? We're just got our handheld light meter out. And basically our meter is at these settings all the time, so we're not setting it, but we say this, of course. Set the meter ISO to 100, right?
If your kid is playing with the meter, you may want to double check this.
That's simple. Just put it to 100. Now this, of course, is a starting point. Nothing is a hard and fast rule. There are times, there's going to be caveats when you do need to make an adjustment there, but as a general rule, simply set your meter to ISO 100. Next is we're going to set the meter shutter speed to 1/100th of a second. Now, a lot of people ask us, and I get this question all the time, why do you do this? It comes at the very end to allow you flexibility to adjust your shutter speed, but essentially, every camera has what's called the X sync speed, which is how fast can you make that shutter speed go before your camera can't actually see the flash anymore.
So have you ever been taking a flash shot and all of a sudden you see these black bars at the top and the bottom of your frame and you're like, what the heck is going on? Essentially,
welcome to X sync.
No. Essentially, your shutter speed is going so fast that it cannot capture the flash coming through. So that's why every camera has what's called the X sync speed. So it says, hey, FYI, if your shutter speed goes above this shutter speed, then you are very likely going to be cutting out the flash and you're not going to get to see all the flash. So as a general rule of thumb, the Canon X sync speed limit is 1/200th of a second and Nikon is 1/250th of a second.
Yeah, so we're basically setting our shutter to half of the average camera's X sync speed. And again, keep in mind, that's going to allow you this specific flexibility at the very end of the whole process to make a fine-tune adjustment. So set it right down the middle. And quick side note, some people may be saying, well, what if I'm shooting on a long lens at 1/100th of a second? Well, my images might be blurry because my camera might be shaking. Well, one, don't worry about that quite as much because your flash is going to freeze people to the frame.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. You can shoot at much slower shutter speeds and still get really, really sharp photos. So next is you're going to simply take a meter reading. You've got your meter set to those things. Remember, the meter is going to tell you the f-stop. So you take your meter. We always place it, and I actually would do this on myself while I'm waiting for my subject to say walk over where I want to take the photograph. Put the meter on my own chin and take a quick few test flash shots. But in this case, if your subject's already standing there, you just want to put the meter right on their chin, make sure the flash hits it, and take a quick test, right? Make sure the flash goes off, and that's all you have to do.
So at this point, all we're looking at is the percentage.
Yep.
And say we want to get to 70% or 80%. So if the percentage is reading 40, we're simply just going to power up our meter, which is the next step.
Exactly. So we then check the percentage on the meter. So I just want to go through a few more really generic ones really quick so you can write them down. So if you're taking notes, write them down. But remember, 40% would be fill light. That means the existing light is pretty decent, but you're just filling in some of the shadows to maybe open up the eye sockets or open up some of the darker areas of your shot. 60% would be 3-to-1 lighting. So that means 60% of your shot is flash, 40% is ambient, or a 3-to-1 lighting ratio. Your flash would be twice as bright as the light that's already in the shot. And remember, every 10% of the ratio that you see, the percentage, is another one stop of power, or doubling or halving the amount of power. So 60% would be that 3-to-1 lighting we showed you earlier, 70% would be that 5-to-1 lighting, and then 80% would be that 9-to-1 lighting. So essentially, you can think of it this way. If I'm not in a dramatic mood and I want pretty, go to 40%. If I want a little bit of tiny bit of drama, I go to 60%. If I want a lot more drama, I go to 70%. If I want loads of drama, I go to 80, or for those of you that dare, go to 90%, right? That's going to be very, very dramatic. Really that simple. And like Jody said, if you want to go from 60 to 70, you're talking about flash power. Turn the flash up, turn the flash down, take another reading. When you get to the percentage you want, you're ready to rock.
So again,
and by the way, that's where it will show it to you right there on that little area.
Depending on your light meter.
So power that strobe up or down until you get to the desired ratio.
So now we actually start to involve our camera in the process, because right now it's just been strobe and light meter. So now we set our camera to whatever the light meter settings are. So we're already at ISO 100. Our shutter speed is 1/100th of a second, and so now we go ahead and we plug our aperture in.
Yeah. So imagine that.
F-stop.
Yeah, your f-stop. So yeah, aperture. So imagine if you're set to ISO 100, 1/100th of a second, and you want a 60% ratio, and you take a meter reading, it says 60%, and it says what the meter says right there, 5.6. So you put those settings, ISO 100, 1/100th of a second, f5.6 in your camera, you pull back, and you start taking photos. It's really that simple, but...
Hold on. I was just going to say, like, right then and there, you are going to have a perfectly exposed shot. There's no guesswork. The meter is telling you the correct exposure that you need for the lighting ratio you want. And it's so awesome. Oh, look at this comment here. So Don is saying, this makes total sense and seems so easy. It really is that simple.
Yeah, Ronald is saying, you guys are changing my life over here. Thanks for explaining this in such a simple way. And then Victoria also said, I can't wait to try this. Finally, my lights are starting to make sense to me. So here's something really cool. We want to add this in at the end. Adjust shutter speed to ratio preference. So this is really cool. This is the reason we set our shutter speed to 1/100th, or right in the middle of that X sync speed. And this is why. So we're going to show you a few example images. These are all shot at ISO 100 at f4.5. So the first image we took, we wanted a 70% lighting ratio, and that was ISO 100 f4.5 and 1/100th of a second. So then we took a few other shots around that to show you some different looks. The first one is where we put the shutter speed, we slowed it down to 1/60th, not 160th, but 1/60th of a second, and we get this brighter, airy looking background. Then we went to that 1/100th of a second, which is where we would have started. And you can see we got a little bit moodier background. It's darker, a little bit more contrast on our subject's face. And then we sped our shutter. Remember, we're not changing anything else. We just sped our shutter speed up to 1/200th of a second. And all of a sudden we get this very dramatic, dark lit background, dark shadows on the photograph. So what's great about setting your shutter speed down the middle to begin with is that you have all this variation, you have all this control. If you would have started at, say, the top sync speed, 1/200th, and then you wanted it more darker or contrast or moodier, you would have had to go back and start over. You would have had to go back, power your flash up, take another meter reading, and so on and so forth. But instead, you have all this variation.
The reason this works, because some of you may be thinking like, wait, this isn't making sense. So the reason this works is because, keep in mind, the shutter speed does not affect the exposure of the flash.
Correct.
And you may be thinking, wait, what? So we're going to talk about a dark room example that'll kind of help break it down for you.
Yeah, so a quick example, if you were in a completely pitch black room and you pulled out your meter and you set it to ISO 100th of a second, took a flash reading, and maybe it said, f5.6, or just like this shot, let's say f4.5. That's how bright the flash happened to be. And you took a photograph, it would be perfectly exposed and it would look fine. It wouldn't be amazing because it's just one light in a dark room, but it would be fine. Then if you took your shutter speed and slowed it down to 30 seconds long and took another photograph.
And remember, pitch black room.
Pitch black room, there's no ambient light. You take a flash shot, the flash goes off, and then the shutter just sits there open for 30 seconds and finally closes, and you looked at your camera, both images would look identical. And that's because the flash comes out and goes off, and then it goes away. The ambient light stays on, so the shutter speed, because the shutter is open longer or shorter, that draws in more light or lets less light in. But the flash, as long as you're not going past that X sync speed and cutting it off, is going to be exactly the same no matter what your shutter speed is.
So that's why that final step, or that fun little step, is just to mess with your shutter speed. You can just do a quick adjustment where the exposure of the flash does not change on your subject, but you can make some quick adjustments on the light in the background, just like you see in these 3 images here.
Yeah, so a couple other little interesting situations. As an example, if we're ever shooting backlit with bright sun like this, we typically automatically go to a higher percentage, like 80% right away, to tone down that bright light coming from the sun in the background.
Yeah, and so what we mean by backlit is, if you look at, this is Jason right here, if you look at the right side of his head, you can see that sun hitting his head from the back, and it is pretty bright. So we wanted to compete with that light that was hitting him and also hitting the leaves and foliage. So we knew we wanted to go immediately to a higher percentage.
And this is why also there's plenty of lighting caveats, right? So the meter, when it's reading the light that's falling right on the meter. So if I put the meter on this couple's chin or right in between them, it's going to read the flash and the shadow side, but it's not reading the sun on the other side. So that's why we increase the percentage much higher in order to tame down that background. It still looks like the background is nice and bright because that's how we wanted it to look. But keep that in mind, that percentage works in most situations. It won't work in every single situation, but we'll talk more about that coming up and how to solve those couple other problems. So when you use that right direction of light with the right ratio, the right kind of light that you want to use for your style, and then you use our system, it gives you the images that you want, the look that you want.
And you can see in this image here, like we have another example where the background is really bright and she's in the shade. So again, we knew from the get-go that we wanted to use that higher ratio.
Yeah, so we went right up to 80% because she was in the shade and we had that bright light in the background. The ambient light settings when we were at 80% was this with the flash off. So we get that tone down, that detail in the background. And then when we add the flash in, we actually sat her up on top of the car. We add the flash in and we get this incredible final looking photograph. It looks like it's ready for the cover of a magazine. Really simple, really easy to do. There's a couple other things we want to mention too, like what about when you're lighting couples?
Yeah, for those of you who are lighting more than one person, more than one people,
more than one person.
More things. Whew. More than one person is. You want to make sure that you position the light so one person is not casting shadows on the other. In this case, we put our main light source to the right. So Stephanie that you see here, she's like casting a shadow on his shoulder and you can't see that. She's not casting a shadow over his face. So we're making sure that the light is around more closer to us so they're both getting hit with that light and those shadows aren't being cast. It's always something to think about.
Yeah, and here's the exciting thing. When you use all of these tools and all of this system all together, you can do all kinds of really cool stuff. You can create high drama images, shooting through these little portals like this on a shot that really wouldn't even be possible. You'd never even see our subject there without that flash on them. Shooting really incredible portraits as the sun is almost gone and you're just getting that little bit of light coming through the background, but the ambient light is not really working for you at all. And then also images like this. Jody and I were shooting this incredible location on the top of this mountain, and we love this beautiful sky and this beautiful look, but we had to add flash in order for our subject to stand out.
Jennifer's saying, I love that cliff one. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Zach was on like the side of this cliff here, and I was afraid he was like going to fall off and die. He's like, babe, trust me, it's going to be awesome.
Turned out cool.
And
Turned
it
out
is.
cool. So really being able to get all of this great information on a webinar is fantastic. It's awesome, but there only so much that we can go through in a keynote online. There's only so much that we can show you, but there's still a problem that you guys have to overcome. Most of us, and I know this is for me too, I need to see it in action. I need to do it myself once I see it in action, and then it really starts to click for me.
Yeah, seeing it in real situations, I think that's always been key for me as just a visual person. So, for years, we taught in-camera workshops at our home in Nashville for intimate groups at a time, about 15 to 20 people. And we've had over 1,200 photographers. They've now come to these classes, and we did them, we've done them around the world. But the big issue for some people is the price. So not only are they paying to attend, $750, but then you have to give up your days for traveling. There's travel expenses, flight, hotel, rental car, time away from family. And we knew that there was just this big problem that not everyone could afford to come and learn this in person with us.
Yeah, there's also the problem with the little caveats. We mentioned a few of those, as we've talked through this teaching. There's definitely all these different little caveats to lighting. There's so many unique situations. And this system is fantastic, and it works in 70 to 80% of all lighting situations, but there's always exceptions to every single rule. What do we do when we face something unique? Something like that bright background, or maybe our subject is standing in the shade and there's bright light in the background. There's all these tricky lighting situations. There's troubleshooting. There's specifics about gear and light modifiers, and all the portrait lighting styles and different ways that we can flatter our clients that need to be flattered.
Yes.
And there's many other problems that need to be overcome. So Jody and I said, we can only do so many workshops. We can only so many people can make that happen. So what is a solution for that? And Jody and I are problem solvers. We love solving people's problems. And if you're looking for the long-term solution to this problem to fix every lighting caveat, every lighting situation, so you become an absolute expert, Jody and I created a solution for that. And this is it. It's our in-camera light course. It's an online course that we spent months developing, filming our in-person workshop, turning it in. Yeah, and we turned it into a beautiful, high-production online course that shows you real shooting situations, tons of them. We'll talk about that in a second. So you can see exactly what we're doing physically while we do our off-camera lighting.
And what's cool too is it's in real time. So we're not just pulling your leg when we say, we can do this lighting setup in 30 to 40 seconds. You really can. You'll see it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you've been shooting for 10 years or for 2 weeks. This entire system will work for you with inexpensive gear or with high-end flashes. So in our in-camera light course, we go through 4 hours of instructional material. We have 25 different live shooting situations.
Yeah, so we take you in a field with all these different scenarios. We take you downtown Nashville, just a lot of different lighting situations that you'll encounter, and you can see how we light in those situations.
Yeah, you'll find every single problem that you can possibly come into over our 10 years of experience. Then we show you how to overcome every problem. Learn how to shoot in any lighting conditions. We show you every piece of tricky lighting that you may come in contact with. What do you do when the percentages don't work? How do you get amazing image in your camera every single time? We also show you how this is going to reduce your editing time significantly because you're shooting incredible photos in the camera. We also teach you guys how to have complete confidence anytime you walk out on a shoot.
Yeah, this will give you that confidence that you want. And then you can get your life back. So you can spend the time with your family that you want to because you're not dinking around behind your computer screen trying to fix everything in Photoshop.
Yeah, we give you clear step-by-step instructions, and you guys are going to walk away with amazing images that are going to blow your clients away even before you take them out of your camera.
Yeah, you can show them right on the back of your camera right there.
Yep. So today we're doing something we have never done before, which is completely unique, completely special just for this audience of you guys online. If you guys want to get flash photos that are just outstanding, that set you apart, You need to learn as much as you can about it. Literally thousands of photographers now have taken this course, and here's what a few of them have had to say.
All right, so Mary says, thanks, Zach and Jody, for showing me how to make my flash images work every time I go out and shoot.
Yeah, Allison said,
nice.
I was tired of fixing my images in Lightroom all the time and living in front of a computer. Now I can shoot in any lighting situation and be more creative with my art. That's so awesome.
Jim says, without the system, he would have tried a million times to get his shots right, but now he's got peace of mind. He knows he can utilize the quick system for getting consistent results, which is huge.
Yeah, and Don just says, thanks you guys for inspiring, pushing, and equipping me to go further in my photography dream. I can't wait to dive deeper. That's amazing. So this is awesome. Tell us what's the deal. Like, what are you going to do for us? We're on this webinar. We've invested an hour plus of our time. What are Zach and Jody going to be able to do for you guys? So this is exactly what we're going to be able to offer you guys on this webinar. So first off is our in-camera light course, which by the way is a $249 value, but you are not going to pay that. You're also not going to pay the $750 that it would cost to come to an in-person workshop, but you're still going to be able to produce the exact same results.
As a bonus, we are including our companion guide that goes along with this light course.
Yeah, this is really cool because it's basically an overview of the system. So if you're on the field, you can pull it up in your phone at any time or before a shoot, get a quick refresher. It also goes through the different lighting modifiers, the meter once again, and basically a troubleshooting guide. If anything goes wrong on location, you want to be able to fix it really fast. So this is a great companion guide that goes along with you anytime you go out on a shoot.
And then we also have the bonus is we are including our in-camera lightning fast post-production system. And the thing is, we talk about, hey, it's great to